Hello, everyone. Welcome to this episode of Across the Bifrost. On today's episode, we are going to be digging into what a different god has been up to. Not Thor, but Hercules, his very good friend. Hercules has been up to a lot of different things up in Canada, slicing it up a little bit with Logan, the Wolverine, and coming across the path of the new Wolverine villain, the Adamantine. So we are going to break down the last few issues of the Wolverine ongoing series that featured Hercules with Hercules himself, Eric Teskey. So, Eric, we get to talk about Hercules on a main episode. Kind of feels like all the stars are aligning.
That's right. That's right. I didn't even have to talk you into it. You said,
Not a
let's do
bit.
it. So, this is a guilty pleasure for me because I have the nickname Hercules because I'm obsessed with the character. I can't shut up about him. I remember I would find an excuse to talk about him in every episode back when I was first as like a guest host and then one of the hosts on the show. So, I'm thrilled, and Hercules has been making a lot of guest appearances. He most
Yeah,
recently was in the Miles Morales comics.
right.
I like to think he's building towards a new title of his own, but hey, with appearances like this, I cannot complain. We're getting plenty of great Hercules content.
And I mean, it's fantastic story that Saladin Ahmed has been building for almost 20 issues now with this new concept given form of the Adamantine and how that goes into Wolverine's backstory and
Hmm.
what the journey Logan has been on in this series. But also, like you were talking about, like Hercules doesn't get a lot of his own limited series or ongoing books, so he's been popping up different places. And once you know, he pops up in Wolverine, where one of our favorite Thor artists, Martin Coccolo, is still doing interior art. So we get to see Martin's version of Hercules. I know we're going to talk about that as well as what Saladin did with this character in the issues, but kind of feels like your guy could not have fallen into better, more mighty, more worthy hands to handle a different god that we're big fans of.
I when I saw this teased and I saw this previewed, I could not wait to see what Martine was going to do with this because, he does such expressive characters. He's so fantastic. And Hercules to fall into his very capable hands, I knew it was going to be a treat. And I got to say, it definitely lived up to the anticipation.
Yeah, so everybody, we are going to be a quick reviewing, not extensive, but we are going to give you our overall thoughts on Wolverine issues 18 and 19. So we are going to do them as a combo, and you're going to get our thoughts on them because really it is a part one, part two story, and I'm just going to give you a quick, very brief synopsis of the story, and then we're gonna set Eric Wild on this story, and he can take this wherever he wants because this is Hercules' moment to shine in both cases. So we drop back into Wolverine's story. There's been a lot going on, like I said, over the last almost 20 issues where Wolverine has interacted with the Wendigo. He's interacted with Sabretooth. He's interacted with Silver Sable. He's interacted with all different parts of his background, but they've all been woven together by this new adversary, the Adamantine, who is trying to purge the world of these lesser adamantium infused villains and characters. We've seen villains like Romulus show up, Constrictor has shown up. Like I said, Sabretooth has shown up to haunt Logan because, after all, his birthday has to come around once a year. And so we've seen a lot happen, but now we are up in Canada still with a group called the New Morlocks, who have taken on Wolverine as their protector. Now, at the beginning of issue 18, we see Wolverine trying to, almost like have this little idyllic life again with Silver Sable, who he makes no bones about it. They have hooked up, and he's like, by the way, things are going great. He calls Silver Sable Babe a few times, and I was like, okay, this Logan is a lot softer than I'm used to him being. But then a noise is heard off in the woods, and Wolverine rushes off and finds a disemboweled Romulus. And Romulus is a very, very tough villain for Logan. So you can only imagine what could have done this to Romulus. And the answer is an adamantine possessed Hercules. This starts a massive fight for most of issue 18, where Hercules and Wolverine tear up the new Morlock camp, and they're only stopped by Athena, who puts a pause on this. And I know this is part narrative device, but also she is like, okay, hold on. Like something is wrong with Hercules, clearly. So we need to put a pause on this. And that's how issue 18 ends. We pick up 19 very quickly, kind of her forcing these two savage champions into a timeout. And then she is able to transport them to where the Adamantine has struck in his own physical form at a military base in the South China Sea. He's taken out a bunch of what I assume are Chinese military personnel, and Wolverine and Hercules show up to try and kick some adamantine ass. And Hercules gets a few good blows in, Wolverine gets a few good blows in, but the issue ends with Logan's claws being shattered up against the glowing armor of the adamantine, and we see him pronouncing himself the victor over these two champions. But we know there's a lot more in these stories. Those are really just the highlights. Eric, where do you want to start with Hercules' adventure with Logan against this new villain?
Well, it all hinges on the adamantine mace, and I've been saying adamantine in my head. Adamantine, adamantine, tomato,
Yes,
tomato.
classic weapon.
Classic weapon forged by I cannot pronounce it. Hephaestus,
Yeah,
the
that you got it.
forged, and so this is like his classic comics Bronze Age weapon, the mace. And so as soon as adamantine was mentioned in one of like the first couple issues of the Wolverine book, it's the gold metal, it's the uncorrupted, untouched by humans, the more pure godly form of this powerful metal. I knew that Hercules, or well, I was hoping that Hercules would make some kind of an appearance because of that adamantine connection. Adamantium, the metal that's in Wolverine, is actually an alloy, and so it
Yeah,
contains adamantine, but it's not the pure form, and that's where this entity that Athena does a good job of explaining that it's a concept given form,
right.
that it's sort of this essence. It's not so much a god in and of itself, but it's this essence of the metal, this concept, and it's seeking a champion. And so it's basically possessing anyone who has this connection to the adamantine metal and trying to put them forward as a champion. So it's
Yeah.
Hercules' turn to be possessed, and that puts him directly at odds with Wolverine here. Now, it's a lot of fun seeing these two go together because Wolverine, when he gets scrapping, when he gets brawling, he can succumb to this. It's like a Wolverine version of warrior madness, like that Thor would get, right? Where it's
Yeah,
like this bloodlust, it's like this
right.
berserker mode. And Hercules can is susceptible to the same kind of thing when he starts getting into the thrill of battle, when he's giving somebody the gift of combat, he can
Gift
get
of
real he
combat.
can really get caught up in the fight also. So these two, they just cannot help themselves. And so it starts with, the mind control, the possession, but it just escalates and escalates. And they finally realize that once they get put in the superhero timeout, like, hold on, you are putting all these people at risk. You are destroying the Morlocks town that you've been building and trying to save this whole time. So they kind of, are brought to their senses, and they're kind of debating whether or not they want to go after the big bad right then. Like, oh, do we have to address this now, or can we help restore the town? And
Yeah,
Athena's basically like, you gotta take care of this. You gotta get
you
this,
gotta go. I'm like,
you
get out of
gotta
here.
finish this right now. So it's fantastic. It's a scrappy, bloody. They're kind of fighting dirty. Wolverine bites a chunk out of Hercules's forearm at one point.
Yeah,
He's slicing, just missed his eye. I wonder if it's going to leave a scar, or probably not. I mean, he's a demigod. He's not going to
that
get scarred
Olympian
by that.
physiology has
But
got the blemishes.
it's really, really cool to have the art where he's got the three claw marks right below his eye, and his eyes
Yeah,
are like gold because he's possessed. Really, really cool. I loved the close-ups on the faces and the eyes, showing the expressions of the characters, balancing out where we have like a close-up of Logan's eyes and a close-up of Hercules' eyes. Just absolutely fantastic. There are multiple full page splashes that are incredibly frameable. I don't know. I think
absolutely.
Martine's got an art dealer or something. Like, these are the kind of thing that if you're a massive Hercules fan, you might be paying attention to see where these things end up.
I,
But yeah,
if only there was one that might be give a care to something
yeah,
like that. Like even how the page that I just showed the screen, the beginning of issue 19, where they're both suspended in that animation. They're both in a powerful like combat pose, but
yeah,
thanks to Athena, they're frozen in that moment. It's I mean the artwork that Martine put into this. I'm glad we get to talk about Martine Coccolo art again because
yeah,
the dynamism that he draws Wolverine with, you feel it. Like you feel the speed of it. And I love that. It's one of the things that, Baz loves to give me crap for this, but it's one of the things I really love about people like Pepe Larraz's art or Alessandro Capuccio's art is there is a motion to it.
yeah,
And Martine does that too. Like his style never feels static where it's just sitting still. There is this flow to it. And especially with Wolverine and this big fight issue that we got in 18 between Hercules and Wolverine, but
hmm
in 19 with them teaming up against the entity of the Adamantine, like it it just feels like a fight issue, and that's what I love so much about his art. The detail isn't lost in the fight part, and I just think he gets it. Duh, he gets it. Like
yeah.
he's working on Wolverine. Like, but the action is just perfectly executed.
A couple of the things I think that help lead to that is that Martine is exceptional at the expressions, and really it's the characters acting, because he's not
Yeah,
just drawing them, he's drawing them in the emotion that they're expressing in that specific
yeah,
panel and in that moment. Another thing that he does really well is basically the two-dimensional fight choreography, because there's I've seen comics before where there's some cool poses, but if it doesn't flow just right, if the panels are like from one to the next, don't let the eye follow a certain path, you can get
yeah.
a little disoriented, like who's on what side of the screen or who just landed a punch or did what. But it's so easy to follow in this because those moments he's taking us through it, letting our mind fill in the gaps of these elements. One of those moments I really like is when Wolverine slashes the mace and breaks the adamantine mace of Hercules,
Yeah.
which is a epic moment that then we get a callback to that in the next issue when his claws break against the adamantine's armor. So it's showing that, it's when it's claws versus mace, the claws won. That increases the stakes with the strength of our villain here, showing that even though the mace got broken, it's not going to work on the armor of our big bad here.
Yeah, I think that's the attention to detail is something I love that you mentioned that because the reason the fight scenes work is because he laid the groundwork of making us care about the characters, the emotion of the characters, and the blocking of it, almost like it's a stage production. Like we know
Yeah,
where things are going and we
exactly.
know how it's going to be executed because we're being led there, not in a like a childish way where it's like, okay, like left foot, right foot, like but we know where we're at in the story at all times.
hmm
So when a curveball gets thrown our way, we're like, right, they were in that panel, but then this happened in the transition. It's great stuff. One thing I want to know, Eric, is when you think of a Wolverine story, there's a
Yeah.
certain cadre of villains that you think of. And when you think of a Hercules story, there's a certain group of villains you think of. How I can't think of a time where I've been like, oh, this villain feels perfectly at home with both of them.
Yeah.
Because I mean, like I'm sure there's a story out there, but like Saladin Ahmed did a fantastic job of making this feel like, oh, this is a threat that both Hercules and Wolverine would have to respond to.
Well, and the longer narrative elements of the adamantium being the common thread through all these
Right.
different cameos and features of the month, it's a perfect excuse to dig up all these characters. Like, who else has used adamantium? Who else has a connection to adamantine?
Yeah.
It's a perfect, and to lay that out And we're talking more than a year and a half of
Oh
like
yeah.
laying the groundwork patiently. I think I've brought this up before. I have such a respect for when a writer has the patience to peel back the onion and
Yeah.
to give us a little bit at a time, saying, "Don't worry, I don't need to just show all my cards at once. We're gonna get
Yep.
there." And it builds and builds and builds. And so this is, I think I don't know if this in this part of the arc, if this is not going to be the final showdown with the Adamantine, but it is giving us more lore in the story of Wolverine in this reality, in this instance, is sort of this quote unquote savage champion that the
Right.
Adamantine is going to be facing up against. So it's all coming to a head, and Hercules is actually getting to fight. I think in the Miles Morales issues, I was left a little bit wanting because he was kind of on the team, but he was not the one out there throwing punches. And now he's in the heart of the battle in both of these issues. So there's so much Hercules goodness here.
He's given so much to do in these issues. Yes, like fight, but also there's a lot of moments where you're like, oh, this is like a Wolverine slash Hercules story. Like it's
Yeah.
not like a Wolverine story featuring, a few cameos by Hercules. Did you have a favorite Hercules moment for favorite Hercules line in either issue 18 or 19 that you just feel like, hey, coming from a Hercules super fan, you should get excited about this comic book fan.
I don't know. I don't have like a specific moment or quote because like Hercules isn't really known for having a lot of like epic one-liners. He's usually pretty lighthearted, but I think what I appreciated the most was the juxtaposition when we first meet him. He is very menacing, and Wolverine says something along the lines of, you haven't been on like down the villain path in some time, and you've never really been like a murderous kind of a guy, because that does allude back to the very first time we meet Hercules. He is the antagonist in the story back in his first appearance against Thor. And so to color him as the maybe not villain, but at least the antagonist in this. It was a fun nod to get back to the roots there of like, oh yeah, when he was first introduced, he was the guy that was like up against the hero. So he's kind of back in that
Yeah.
role. And then also a really interesting moment when he backhands Silver Sable. That is showing, it's not just showing that he's under mind control because real Hercules would never do that. Hercules
Yeah.
is going to be the first guy to call somebody out and to basically throw down if he catches anybody being
Yeah.
disrespectful like that. So that just kind of shows just how much he is under the influence, and it's so out of character, but it's like in a way where it's almost like a callback, like he's picked fights over less than that. And
Oh,
now that's letting
yeah.
Wolverine be in the position of striking back for something like
Yeah.
that.
I like that reference to the Silver Sable moment because I believe the line there is something to the effect of like, before our clash of metal, let us hear the sound of broken bone. And then he
Ooh.
just backhands her, and it's just like, oh my
Kathwack.
gosh. But my favorite Hercules moment was, I mean, the fight is fantastic. The shattering of the mace is fantastic. But my favorite moment for him is in 19 when Athena says, I've looked into the future and there is no real scenario where Hercules conquers this
Yeah.
villain alone. And then when they go to face off against this golden plated god looking being with weirdly a trident, which feels kind of odd. I guess visually, I was like, maybe like an axe or a sword, but
He looks like
sure.
a Roman gladiator
Right.
almost. Yeah,
Yes, he
with the
looks like a
trident still
gladiator.
works there. Yeah.
Hercules says this line because Wolverine's like, remember Athena said there's no scenario where you win. He's like, fie on Athena's doomsaying, to battle Wolverine, together we will crush our shared enemy. And then he jumps in, he's like, worry not, for mighty Hercules will. And then just the adamantine smashes him in the face. But I love that because Hercules is the guy that's like, oh, they said we were going to lose. Well, I'm taking no stock in that.
Yeah. Like, let's
And
go.
so,
We got to just go
yeah,
anyway. Yeah.
he's like, we gotta do something. And so I think that's where they've really, really modern renditions of Hercules have done a good job of not making him arrogant, but making him confident. and making him confident to the point of like not being foolhardy, but being like stubborn in a good way. I like when Hercules is
Yeah.
stubborn in a good way.
That's a good point. And that is a see. I think you're catching on. I think all my Hercules talk is revving up because the characterization is so important. He's not a buffoon anymore. He has grown so much, but he does have this naive optimism that still is a hint, it's a hearkening back to the earlier times when he was a little bit more foolhardy. So
Yeah,
you can tell it's the same character, but he's grown a bit since then. Not to the point where he's not going to still go into the fight, but
that's
he
still gonna happen.
he does have some wisdom, a little bit more wisdom than he used to.
Well, Eric, any other final thoughts about Hercules's guest appearance in Wolverine against this villain that has ties to both of them and issues where they have ties to us because we never get tired of talking about Martine's art and I feel like Saladin did done a great job telling the story, like you said, no rush. He it feels like reading that he trusts the story that they want to tell,
Yeah.
and people keep coming back for it. So, any other final thoughts you have about these stories?
Well, I'm definitely picking up number 20. On the last page of 19, we see Hercules. He's just sleeping. He's fine. He's gonna be fine. He's gonna get
A
right
quick
back up.
timeout.
But the adamantine looks awesome because I don't know, he's sort of like absorbed the idea of like claws might be kind of cool, and I think he's just formed his glove on his armor into Wolverine-esque claws. It kind of reminds me of like the Street Fighter Vega claws, where it's like he's got
Okay.
those built into his glove then. And so, yeah, we're gonna see what happened. It says next, a farewell to claws. So, what are we gonna do without
Play on
Wolverine's?
Farewell to Arms. I love that.
Exactly.
And then the cover, the Dan Panosian cover for number 20 also has his giant the Adamantine's helmet in the background.
hmm
Wolverine has claws in this cover, and I'm like, okay, did we just not want to give away the
Well, just
farm?
because it would be so weird to have one hand with like broken
Yeah,
off claw.
I love that. I have so many questions that I want to ask an editor. Like, how do you not give away what's going to happen, but also get people hyped for what's coming up? That seems like a weird science to me.
Speaking of weird, okay, this is just totally random. I know
Yeah.
we're kind of landing the plane here, but I wonder who decided that adamantium would shatter as opposed to bend. Like, I wonder,
Oh,
would it dent and like bend, or because if it's, I guess it's
huh.
brittle enough or hard
Good
enough that it would.
question.
We need a science somebody. We need like a metallurgy professor in here to tell us what's the difference.
Yeah, if only we had kept that alchemist on retainer like you guys told me to. Gosh,
Right.
darn it. No, that's a that's a great question, and maybe we'll get indirectly or very random indirectly we'll get an answer to that question. But like you said, you're picking up issue 20. I'm definitely picking up issue 20 because I want to know how this story continues. And like, do I think Wolverine's not going to have claws for the rest of his existence? No. It's like well, Logan not having claws is like Thor not being able to wield the hammer. It's like it's gonna come back around,
Yeah.
but I want to see how. And this villain has me so intrigued. I hope that Hercules doesn't just go away. I hope we get to see Herc at least be a supporting character for a minute in the next issue or maybe next two issues or so. But only time will tell. Yeah, everybody, thanks for checking out this review of what Hercules has been up to in the pages of Wolverine. We hope you enjoyed this little review that we put together for this to give Hercules his moment because he deserves his moments when we can give those to him. Um, if you want to check out more from us, check out the links in the episode description for Discord, Instagram, and for Patreon. And yeah, if you want to support the show with a like and a subscription, we would greatly appreciate that. Let us know in the comments where you hope Hercules shows up next in his own limited series, in Eric's dream world, in an ongoing series.
Yes.
An ongoing Hercules series. I think you could have a lot of fun with that. I, I don't buy the fact that he can't sustain a series. Any well-written character can. Like anybody can if you give them the resources they need. Everybody, whether you are fighting the you're fighting the essence of like the power that you've held, or you're possessed by this fighting spirit to go after people who used to be friends of yours. Whether you're protecting those who can't protect themselves, or whether you've just lost a part of you and you're like, oh my gosh, what in the world do we do now? No matter what you are doing, no matter where you're at, we just ask you to do one thing, and that is to stay worthy. Bum, 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 ba,
Yada,
bum.
yada,